Hi, I'm Lynn Mann presenting to you Microsoft Word 2013, Creating Fillable Forms. Forms are incredibly useful when we need to collect information from someone like a job applicant, a club member, an employee, or other user. Using Microsoft Word, we can create forms for our users to complete in either a printed hard copy version or an electronic version. Although I'm using Word 2013 today, these methods will also work seamlessly for Microsoft Word 2010 and 2007. From planning and design to creating and protecting, I'll show you how to build simple professional-looking forms. When planning and designing a form, there are a few initial questions to ask ourselves. What information should be collected from the user? Usually, the purpose of the form will dictate what information needs to be gathered. For example, if this is a job application, then we should have areas for personal contact information, job history, education, references, maybe special skill set. If this form is for a club membership, then we should include areas for, again, personal contact information, but this time maybe something like chapter location, committees they'd like to serve on. Sharing information on a form isn't always a one-way street. A form can also give information to the applicant, such as membership dues and requirements, terms and conditions, our company's mission statement, so on and so forth. When designing the form, it might sound simple and obvious, but we need to try to keep like information together. If we're requesting their name, address, and phone number, that should be all in one location on the form. And maybe if we have a particular heading like personal information, that might make it clear as to what we're asking for. We should keep in mind how is the form going to be distributed, if it is in print or electronic. When the form is going to be filled out electronically, there are a few extra items to consider. 1. We should keep in mind how the tab key behaves. Where is the cursor going to go next? How is the structure of the form going to be affected when the users key in the data? We also need to know if we're using a table format. Will our cells resize when the data is longer than our cell? And should we use a password to protect the structure of the document so that this document doesn't change when the user keys in their data? A couple of different ways of building forms is using either an inline method or utilizing Word's table capabilities. For the inline form, it's very simple. You type in a label and then type a line to signify where the applicant is to fill in the form. You can even add a square to signify a checkbox. This method is perfect for a printed version of the form that the applicant is going to fill out by hand. For the table-based form, it gives us a little bit more capabilities, as in we can color the background of the cell so it stands out and divides our form up very nicely. We can also resize each of the cells to fit our data that we need to fill in. Both of these forms, as they're built currently, I would not recommend for an electronic version. If you are going to distribute electronically, then instead of just typed lines or just empty boxes, you would want to utilize Word's content controls. Whichever method you use, either a printed version, electronic version, inline method, or table-based form, you should include clear directions so that the user knows how to complete the form. Microsoft Word 2013 allows us to build an inline form fairly simply. Inline forms basically have a label and then a line signifying where the user is going to fill in information. We need to be aware that if this is not going to be a printed document to fill out and it's going to be an electronic document, there are some downsides to these methods. One is the user's input will affect the form because of the style that we're going to use. So I don't recommend this for an online or electronic version of a form, but I do recommend it for a very quick and easy way to build a form for a printed version. Let's utilize Word's features to build an inline form for printing. I'm not starting with a blank document. I'm starting with a document with some language already on the page, and now I'll turn it into a form. Most people building an inline form we'll use underscores or turn on the underline and add spaces to create a line, so the person filling out the form understands where to add information. This is a pretty quick and easy way to add lines to the document to signify where to add information. This method works fine for printed forms, but if the form is going to be electronically distributed, this is not the method to use. Why, you might ask? Well, underscores and spaces are characters, and therefore when a person begins typing their information on the underscore or underlined space, it will insert the text and move the other characters to make room. This is what I mean. So for the first name, I want to construct a line, so all I'm going to do is shift and the hyphen, which is the underline, and I'll make a long enough line. Then maybe tab over to give some room for the middle name, add a colon, maybe some spaces, and again another underline. So I'm just using the underscore to build my lines right now. And then last name, again some underline, underscore to do my line. Here's the problem. If this form is done and I give it to somebody in electronic file to fill out the form, they're going to click on the line for first name and they're going to type their name. But here's what happens. The text starts moving over and the whole line is disrupted. That's because if I turn on the all characters, you'll see that these underscores are actual characters. Likewise, I'm going to turn off the all characters. Let's say our line is not the underscore, but I'm going to turn on the underline feature and just add some spaces. That too creates a line that a person can fill out. But again, here's the problem. When I turn on the all characters, you'll see these are actual characters. So when somebody goes to type their name on that line, although it's nicely underlined, it moves all of everything else on the line over. So it's not the best to use for an electronic form, but if you're going to print out this form, this manner is just fine. This method is just fine. I'm going to remove the data that I inserted, and I'm going to clean up the line, and here it is, nationality. And I could add another line, but instead I am going to add a tab. So this tab, let me turn on the all characters, you can see that there's a tab right here. That's perfect. And another tab, but perhaps this tab, this front leader tab, I want it to stop at 3 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put a tab stop there. Another way of creating a line, which I prefer, is to use the tab stops. This way we can verify exactly where to stop our line, start our line, so on and so forth, and we have better alignment of our document. So I want to turn on the all characters so you can see I do have a few tabs in here. Now right now after nationality I have 2 tabs, but I really don't need 2 tabs. I just need 1 tab. I'm going to highlight the tab marker, go up to paragraph, click on tabs, and I want my tab stop, let's say, to go to 2.5. So 2.5, and I want it to have the leader of an underscore. And then I have a choice if I can either do dots or dashes, but again, I want a line, so it will be the underscore, and I want to set it. And I click on OK. So this makes a very nice straight line. Now if I go up to the first name and remove some of this line that I created, here's my tab stop, here's my tab once again, and I can easily say, oh, I want it at 2.5, that way it aligns up with the line underneath it. Set it to align and set. Say OK. Now you see it lines up very, very nicely. I can select another tab, go up to paragraphs, and this time set this tab marker to 5, have it a leader, and set the tab stop and say OK. Again, for middle name, if I wanted it to line up with passport, I can do the same thing using tabs. This makes it really nice to line up easily. I'm going to turn off the all characters, and I want to add a place where date of birth, but I want it in such a way where I have slashes. So I could put a line, but that doesn't really indicate to the person on how to fill this out. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and use a simple underscore, and then a forward slash, and then maybe a few lines of underscore again, and a few slash. And then I'm going to ask them, by adding this parentheses, it's going to be day, day, month, month, year, year, and that will inform the user how to fill out that date. If I wanted a few little spaces in between, I can do that as well, just space it out a little bit. I'm going to continue doing the lines and underscores the same way. So I'm going to add a line for company name, title, occupation, street, city, state, zip code, telephone, fax, and email. But I want these to line up. The street, telephone, city, fax, state, and email. I want them to line up, so I am going to use tab stops. Company name, title, and occupation, I'm just going to quickly add some underscored lines to move things around. This is the fastest way to build an underline. That looks pretty good. And then the street, I'm going to give it a few spots. I do want to turn on the all characters, see what I have here. I do have 2 tabs. I can get rid of one. Here's one tab. Again, paragraph marker. And I notice I have, instead of a new line, I just have a line break. So if I use a line break, it's going to take all of this and space it out in terms of using tabs. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I set this first tab to have a tab stop at, let's say, 3 inches maybe, I say OK, it's going to take all of these. Why? Because of this new line break versus paragraph marker. That's fine. I can utilize this if I want. So here's the first one. And did I set it as a... Oh, I need to reset it to have the leader of a line. And I set. Say OK. And that's going to grab everything, which is kind of cool. Let's try city. And this tab stop, I'm going to set the tab stop, this time at, let's say, 4.25 inches. The leader again set. I say OK. I don't need this tab underneath it. So fax lines up really nicely. State, I'm going to push over just a wee bit. Grab this first paragraph marker, or this tab set, and I'm going to now set it at, let's say, 5.5. I'm just kind of guessing right now on where I want these. And that looks okay. I'm going to have to fix that first line, maybe remove one of these tabs that I don't need. Or, better still, I'll fix that in a minute. And then last but not least, the zip code. Let's end the zip code at 6.5. Again, the leader to be a line, and say OK. Now it looks like these 2 lines are lining up pretty well, but I have an extra space in there that I don't need for the fax. And I want a little bit of spacing between the line and the space. So now what I'm going to do is, now that I have the base lines in there, I'm going to change up some little items here that to fix what I have. So let me turn off the all characters to show you what I have. and I want to clean it up a bit. So the first thing is I'm going to take this new line out of there and create a paragraph marker at the end of each of these lines. I want to tighten up my paragraph spacing, so after is going to be 0, before is going to be 0. That tightens it up a bit. And I want a little bit of space after that last one, so I'll go ahead and add 10 points back to that last one. It's just cleaning it up to make it look nice. My title doesn't have to be that long, so on this line, since I unconnected each of these lines, I can now manipulate these lines separately. So I'm going to go to the first tab stop, and this one currently is at 3.5, so maybe I do 4.5. So highlight it, go back to our paragraph, go back to tab. I want 4.25 because it is a name of a company, maybe it's long. And I set, and I remove that one right there. Sometimes Word's pretty fastidious about these tab sets. There we go, we had an extra tab in there. And that looks much, much better. Just playing around with the tab just right now to make it look a little bit better. Okay, this tab stop's a little long, so we're going to get rid of it. I'm going to create a new tab, go up to paragraph. Sometimes this happens. I'm going to clear and say OK. And it's doing the whole line, so I'm going to go ahead and say clear again, just kind of start over again. Clear and clear on this line. So these are going to be regular tabs. Now I can resize it. And let's say I want it at 3. Set. There we go. Much better. Things are lining up a little bit. So down here I want to add a checkbox in front of office or residence for the preferred mailing address. Checkboxes are just boxes. So there are a couple ways that I can add this in. One is to insert a symbol of a square. So insert symbol, and on the more symbols, all I need to do is find a box. There's a nice box. And I say close. I'm going to create a little bit of space, and it's a little small. It's just font at this point, so I can change the font size, making it a little bit larger. And now that it's font, I can just do a Control-C for copy, go in front of residence, and hit space, and do the same thing for mail, phone, and email. This way they're all the same size and they look nice. Right here in front of yes, we probably want a checkbox, and in front of no, we need a checkbox. And is it an apartment? Check an apartment. Or a house? Check that house. Is it rented? Or do you own it? So these are all little check boxes that we can add just by adding a symbol. There are a few more lines that I want to add into the document, but there are also a few yes or no questions. So right here where it says, is it built of bricks or stone? I also want it, will you use your home as an office? Have you ever used any personal property? All of these are going to be yes or no. Since we have the layout pretty nice here, I'm just going to copy and paste. This is the best part of Word, is just copying and pasting, and then kind of manipulating it a little bit for it to line up properly. So it looks like I need one more tab to line it up. And this one's a little long in the tooth, but it's on the next page, so no worries. We're going to line that up. We can also change some of the spacing of these lines, but just by highlighting it, removing maybe some spacing before. Right now it's at 5 point. Let's do, and maybe after. Reduce the after as well. That just tightens it up a bit. And now I see, since it's on the same page, let's just line it up. Let me see what else is in there. So there's some extra spacing. That's the great thing about that all characters. It can show me what's going on with my document. So I can line things up pretty nicely. So let me turn off the all characters and take a peek at our document. So very simply and easily, besides my lines for my home address, I've created a form. And again, there might be some touch details that I want to straighten out here, like adding a few more so the passport number and maybe the middle name line up a little bit better, just so it looks nice and neat. Maybe have the date of birth up here. So this is what I would do to build an inline form, is just to kind of now play around with how it looks. Maybe adding a little bit of spacing in between the headers, so it spaces it out a little bit. Maybe I want to add some check boxes up here on the top, so I'm going to use what I have on my form already. So go right up here, before Mr., before Mrs., and before Ms., and space them out with a couple of tabs. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add these lines for my home address really quick. Okay, I finished adding the lines for the home address and the additional contact person. So in short, this is an easy way to add lines by using either underscores or spaces, or using tab leaders to create lines, and then using a symbol of a box for a checkbox. This is a perfect way of designing an inline form for a print view. Let's review what we've done. We built an inline form with simple design, and it's easy to execute using underscores, underline, and also tab leaders. This format is very useful with printed forms, but there are some warnings if you're going to use them for electronic forms. Microsoft Word 2013, as well as Word 2010 and 2007, have built-in table capabilities, but these tables, although they are quick and easy to use, they are limited in the layout and the formatting of the table. Generally, the built-in table will have column headings and then maybe some cell color for the rows and the columns for your data, and that's about all. But Word also allows us to build custom tables, which we have more capabilities. Since there are numerous options when customizing tables, I'll break it up into two parts. In the first part, I'll discuss inserting a blank table to start with, then adding some columns and rows to our inserted table, merging and splitting cells to create custom areas for our data, and moving contents from one cell to another. I've opened up a new blank document in Word 2013. To insert a blank table, I just need to click on the Insert tab, and in the Tables group under Tables, there are a couple different ways if I can insert a blank table. One is I can use this dimension area. So this will tell me how many columns and how many rows. I can have up to 10 columns and 8 rows doing it this little area. If I needed more, then all I need to do is click on Insert Table, and I can say how many exact columns, how many rows do I need. I'm just going to use this fast area and say 3 by 8. Now, once I have the blank table on the page, that's not the end-all be-all. If I did happen to need another column, I can insert another column. If I have a blank table, all I need to do is click whatever column I have, highlight it. You'll see that my cursor turns into a little black down arrow. Highlight the whole column, and there's this nice little pop-up window that opens up in 2013. So I can click on Insert Table, and this is if I wanted a row above, a row below, insert to the left of a column, insert right column. So I just want to say insert left. Since the table's blank, it doesn't matter where I insert the column. Now I have a total of 4 columns. I also know I need more rows than just 8. So to insert rows, there's several different ways that we can do that. One is I can highlight on a row, and again this nice little dialog box opens up, and I can say insert either above or below the position I'm at. Just going to say below. But let's say I need another row. I can also right click, go to insert, and this works with the columns and the rows. So I can say row above, row below. And lastly, if I have a row selected, I can go to Layout, and in Rows and Columns on the Layout tab, I can insert a row above or row below. Now I need a total of 14 rows, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to this last position, this last cell. One of these boxes creates a cell, and I'm just going to hit the Tab key, and every time that I get to that last box, it creates a new row. So I need a total of 14 rows. Now that I have 4 columns and 14 rows, I'm going to start typing in my data. Now the most boring thing that you could possibly do is watch me type. So I'm going to pause the video, type in the data, and then come back to you. Now that I have my data inside my table, I can start manipulating it to make it look the way that I want it to look. First thing is I do want the name of my business to be a little bit larger and in a different font, so I'm just going to choose Arial Rounded. There's several ways that I can get there from here. Since the Home tab was already selected, I can just go up to my font group, change the font, change the size to the size that I want. And again, my table is just making room for all of my data in this one cell. And let's say I also want to change the font size of this guy to maybe a 12. And I can do this for each of these cells, change the font. It's just like changing font in a regular document. I do want the registration form to be a little bit more fancy, so in the font group I'm going to use a font effect. And I'm going to choose this Fill with gray 25% background 2 with an inner shadow. I want to change the font to Arial Rounded. I think that looks okay, and I do want it a little bit larger. You'll see it's kind of pushing things around and resizing my table, but that's okay. I'm going to fix that later. On a couple of the cells in my table, I would like child information, parent guardian information, credit card information, and for office use only to be in all capitals. I could have typed it in that way, could have keyed it in that way, but in all honesty, I forgot. So instead of retyping that, what I'm going to do is select my text. I'm going to hold down the Control key and go get some more text of the parent guardian information, the credit card information, and for office use only. By holding down the Control key, it allows me to select data that is not adjacent to one another. If I hold down the Shift, let's say I put my cursor right before the in name and I hold down the Shift and I click somewhere else, it's going to grab everything in between those two clicks. But for non-adjacent information, I just hold down Control and highlight what I want to select. So again, just going to highlight those areas. And on the Home tab, in the font group, in the Change Case icon, I'm going to click on it and select Uppercase. This way, I didn't have to retype it. I made Word do the work for me. I'm looking at my table, and as it turns out, I do need one more column. I would like to put the Scarborough Kung Fu School in a column all by itself. So I'm going to click on the first column. Again, my icon changes to a down black arrow, and I have this nice pop-up. I'm going to insert my column to the left. This opens up this new column. So now I have a total of 5 columns in my table. Right now the column is selected. I know that because it is gray highlighted in that whole entire column, which is great, but let's say I click away from it and I actually wanted to do something else in that column, like merge all the cells so it's one big space instead of all these little spaces, all 14 different spaces. So what I would need to do is again highlight the column, and I can just click on the whole entire column, and I want to merge. There's several different ways of merging your cells. One is to go to the Table Tools Contextual tab, go to the Layout tab. In the Merge group, click on Merge Cells. That's one way of doing it. Another way is to right-click. Whenever you are in a cell, in a table, highlighted text, if you right-click, it will show you exactly what you can do with that function. So whether it's merging, splitting, resizing, playing with the font, whatever it is, if you right-click on it, it usually tells you everything that you can do with it. Okay, now that I have that area merged, I'm going to move the Scarborough Kung Fu School block of information over into this cell. Again, a couple of ways to do this. One is to highlight the data, do a cut and a paste, but I think that's too difficult or too many steps to do. So all I'm going to do is highlight it, grab it with the mouse, and then drop it by letting go of the mouse. I also want to move over the registration form information, so I'm going to again highlight it, click on it, and I can move it anywhere in this table just by dragging and dropping. It's looking much, much better. I'm going to show you one more way of doing that. So I'm going to undo when I moved over registration form. So you can highlight it, go to the insert, go home, do a copy and a paste. But here now I have to go back and delete what I left. If I would have done a cut, so again I'm going to just move it back to where it was. If I did a cut instead of a copy, click on cut. Seems like it disappeared, but it didn't. It's on my clipboard. If I want to know what's on my clipboard, all I have to do is expand my clipboard and it shows me what is on my clipboard. I go to the place where I want to paste it. I select which one I want to paste and it pastes there. Let me copy that. There we go. I can clear everything that's on my clipboard and keep going. So right now the Scarborough Kung Fu School takes up quite a bit of space, and that's really not the most important thing on this form, not the most important item. So what I want to do is I want to keep it here in the first column, but I want to manipulate how it sits in this cell. So right now the alignment is horizontal, which is normal text, but I'm going to change the cell's layout. So on the Layout tab in the Alignment group, I'm going to click on Text Direction. And I might need to click this multiple times to see how I want it to line up. So if I click it once, that's not bad actually, but it seems a little backwards. So I'm going to click again, and that seems much better to realign it. I do see maybe this font could be a little bit large. So there we go, it fits a little bit better. Now it's sitting in the cell vertically, the alignment, but we can change the alignment of the text within the cell. So we change the direction to a vertical alignment, but we can also change it to where it either sits in the middle or it sits on top. It's a little backwards thinking, but it's top left when everything lines up on the top left. So this is left of the cell. If I wanted it on the right cell, then I want to see what's going on with my cell really quickly, because I did click right and nothing happened. So a trick that I've learned over the years is if I go onto the Home tab and I click on the All Characters, I can see exactly why it did not line up to the right. It's all these extra paragraph markers. So if I get rid of all these extra paragraph markers, then it will follow the alignment that I want. So that's a little trick I've learned. There's a few other cells that I want to merge, and there's something that I may want to split up. So I'm going to choose to take this second cell with the registration form, and I'm going to merge it to the cell to the right. So there's a couple ways of doing this. One is I can go to the layout, I highlight my cells, and I say merge cells. A quick way of doing it, I found out with 2013, we have an option of erasing borders. Now it's not just the color of the border, it's actually merging the cells. So on the Layout tab, in the Draw area, I'm going to click on Eraser. And what this does is, as long as I just click on the line, it erases the border between these two cells and in essence merges it. So I'm going to merge a few of these other cells. So parent guardian information is merged to the right. Credit card information is merged to the right. This area, I'm just clicking and holding and going over both of those lines and merging that cell next to notes. Office use, I'm going to do 3 of those lines and merge that area. I have noticed that sometimes it does erase what's in it, so I'm going to undo. I'm going to click on the lines individually, the dividers individually. 1, 2, and 3. Now that I have my cells merged where I want them, for office use only, this cell, I actually need one more cell underneath it. So to split this cell into 2, what I'm going to do is go to the Layout, go to Merge, and I can split cells. Again, I could have right-clicked, but since my Layout tab was already open, split cells. Instead of 2 columns, I want 1 column. I can either use my up and down arrows to change these numbers, or I can toggle the up and down arrows, or I can just type. So I want 2 rows and 1 column. Now I've added a row in essence. I've split this cell. And if I had a cell over here, you could see that I actually split the cell versus really adding a row. It didn't add one right here, a row against the Scarborough Kung Fu School. It did add it just underneath the office use only. Let's summarize what we did in Custom Tables Part 1. We inserted a blank table by going to our Insert tab and telling it how many rows and how many columns we wanted. After our table was inserted, we added some columns after the fact, and likewise with rows. We merged and we split some cells to resize some areas, and we moved some cell contents around by just dragging and dropping, as well as cut and paste and copy and paste. In Custom Table Part 1, we covered several table manipulations like adding the table, adding columns and rows, merging and splitting cells, and moving content from one cell to another. In Part 2, we'll continue where we left off, looking at Words table capabilities. We'll look at moving the grid lines to resize existing cells, drawing, erasing, and formatting our borders to accentuate areas of our table, align, rotate, and format text to improve the look and layout of the information on our table, and shade some cells to improve the look and make it easier to read. Let's continue with the table that we started in Part 1 of Custom Tables. Right now, our data doesn't fit in our cells very well, so we want to expand some of the widths and some of the heights of some of the cells. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to click on the cell that I want to see the dimensions, click on Layout, and right here in the cell size it shows me what the height is and what the width is. So on the width I want to change this to 0.75, and that fits much better. And I'm going to start manipulating some of the cells, and sometimes with word tables this outside edge might get skewed, but that's okay, we can fix it later on. So let's see. Several ways of changing the cell size. One is to grab the edge And if I hold down the Alt key and click on the border of the cell, I can see up in the ruler area what size this is. And so I'm going to just bring it down to maybe 1.1. It's a little bit tricky to get these exact if I wanted them an exact amount. So let's see. I'm going to grab this edge right here. Again, hold down Alt, and I want to make this maybe 1.4. That's about a good size to fill in some data. Again, I'm going to grab this outside edge, and you'll see it skips over some of the cells that don't have that border. It's kind of nice in that sense. So again, hold down and possibly let's do 1.25, looking much, much better. Grab the registration form and bring that down to maybe a 2.4 or 4.1. That looks like it fits well. And this notes area, I don't need it very large. The problem is it's connected with the columns above it. So to fix that, so here's what I'm going to do. If I just drag this boundary, it's going to grab everything above it. And that's fine if I did want to change all the rest, but I don't. So what I do want to do is I'm going to click on the cell, highlight the cell, go up to its width, and then change its width to, let's say, 0.6. This outside border changed, but that's okay. I'm going to change the two cells underneath it, again, highlighting the cell only, 0.6 to resize it, and then I can grab this outside border and line it up with the outside border of the rest of the table. Sometimes it's a little tricky. If I knew the dimension, I could change it exactly, but I'm just going to manipulate both of those until they line up. And once they line up, I can drag all of it and resize it. For adjusting the column height or the row height, what I want to do is select the For Office Use Only, and again I can click on, whoops, computer's a little slow tonight, and I kind of want to double the size just to make it a little bit larger to stand out. And again, that's just dragging, or I can dictate by doing an undo right now. The height is 0.7. I could put 0.14, or again, just drag. And again, for the parent and child information, I want those a little bit larger so the information stands out in between. Finally, I expanded the registration form just to give it a little bit more room. So now what I want to do is start changing the alignment of some of the data in these cells. So for the office use only, I want it centered, but I also want it centered not only horizontally, but vertically as well. So on the Layout tab, in the Alignment group, there is a Center Alignment, which centers it horizontally and vertically within the cell. I'd like the child information. I want that centered on the top of the cell. I'll check it out and see how I like it, as well as the parent and guardian of the cell, parent and guardian information cell. That's not cutting it for me, so I'm going to go ahead and grab those and do it by the center. And likewise with registration form, maybe center. And let's see, credit card information probably should be centered, as well as this please do not enter information in this shaded area. I'm going to go ahead and center that as well. Now that we have the alignment looking pretty good, you see that I have this comment saying please do not enter information in the shaded area. Well, it's not shaded, so I am going to highlight the cells that I want shaded. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get all of the cells in one pass, so I'm going to go ahead and select what I can, and on the Design tab in the Table Tools, under Shading, I'm going to select one of the shading Maybe gray 25% background 2 looks pretty good. And the cells that I didn't get, I'm going to go back and select them and just hit the shading bucket again. Once I have this cool shading bucket, or that I've selected a shading color, I can reuse it over and over and over again. And I'll use it behind this registration form cell as well. And perhaps I need to change the font color to make it stand out a little bit more. Oops, that was my fault. So shading and color for my font is going to be white, so that stands out a little bit more. And then for the child information and the parent guardian information and the credit card information, what I want to do is highlight the cells or color the cells in a dark color. So I'm going to go to Design, go to my shading bucket, and I'm going to change it. But as you see, when we roll over the colors, it will get to a point where Word is pretty smart and will change over the black to a lighter text on top of the black. So I'm going to go with this one, as well as for the credit card information, to take a peek at what that looks like. It's looking pretty good. Now if I want the font to be a little bit brighter, all I would need to do is go and change it from this kind of off-white to a pure white. And that might look a little bit stronger on the form. Now we're left with our borders. So right now I have some borders that I don't want. I'd like name to take up this whole entire space, because what I'm planning on doing for this table right now is to print it off and give it to people to fill out. They're not going to be filling it out electronically. So this is just a printed version of this form. And to do that, what I'm going to do is highlight the column, and I want to get rid of this left border. So on the layout, on the design, on the border styles, I have a choice of all kinds of borders. So I can, right now there's a left border, I can do it heavy, I could say a light border, I could say more borders, but first and foremost I'm going to turn on grid lines. The reason why I'm turning on grid lines is when I remove a border, it will allow me to see where the border would have been. So I'm going to say left border. I can say no border, and you'll see there's the grid lines. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the whole entire border shading so I can remove this left border. I find that it's easier to get into this box and change things up. Again, I'm going to go ahead and go to my borders and shading and remove that left-hand border. Now when it's printing, when I print this out, it will not print the grid lines. I only see them in a design mode type of thing. Okay, let me turn off those grid lines so you can see that it is these larger cells now, appears to be larger cells. And for the table, I'm going to select the whole table, and I want an outside border that's a little bit heavier than what I have right now. So here's my border styles. I'm going to select a heavier border, and I'm going to say outside border. Again, let's see. Color is going to be black. Width, I want a little bit heavier, and I'm going to do the outside. So I can click on the borders that I want heavy, just on the outside. This is going to apply to the table, not the cell, but the table. I'm going to say OK. And now I have this more of a stronger border around the whole entire table. So there's one other border that I want to get rid of just because I'm here and I can, but we're pretty much done building our form. So that looks pretty good. We could embellish it a little bit more, but this is a fine form just to print out and give to somebody to fill out. Let's summarize what we learned in Custom Tables Part 2. We changed the table properties to not automatically resize for the contents of cells. This allowed us to resize our column and rows, either dragging the grid lines or going up to the ribbon and in the width and height area, typing in exactly how high and how wide we wanted our columns and rows. We erased some borders. We also changed some borders to make them more bold. We aligned and rotated our text as well as set them horizontally and vertically in the cell, and we shaded some cells. In Microsoft Word 2013, the power of forms that are available in electronic or an online venue happens by the use of content controls. Content controls allow the designer to build documents that have the following features, like a user interface that has controlled input, restrictions that prevent users from editing protected areas of the document, and data mapping, binding content to an XML data source. I'll discuss the user interface and restricting input into the document, but I won't go into data mapping. Content controls are available in Word 2013, 2010, and 2007. In versions previous to 2007, form fields are similar. Form fields are still available in the newer versions of Word under the heading of Legacy Forms, in the event you need to build a document for users of older versions of Word. In Content Control Part 1, I'll cover text content controls as well as date picker content controls. To use content controls, the first thing we need to do is be able to get to the content controls, which is on the Developer tab. As you currently see, we have the Home, Insert, Design, so on and so forth, those tabs, but we don't have a Developer tab up here yet. So we need to go to File, go down to Options, and in Customize Ribbon area, we want to scroll down and look for Developer. And right here we want to select Developer and say OK. Now we have the Developer tab. And right here we have our content controls. Now, as I was talking about before, if you're working with somebody that has an earlier version than 2007 of Word, you would want to use these legacy forms, either the ActiveX controls or the legacy forms. I'm not going to use those today. I'm going to use the built-in 2013 versions because I think pretty much everyone I work with has 2007 and above. So I'm going to talk about the plain text content control. There is a rich text as well, and there's a slight difference between the two. But plain text is what we need. The picture control, content control, I am not going to work with the building block gallery content control. I am going to do a check mark, a combo box, a list, drop-down list, a date picker, and this last one over here is a repeating section content control, and I'm not going to work with that one today. So for the name of the child, name of the parent guardian, an address, a city, a state, all of those I'm going to use text content boxes. So first I'm going to click on the cell that I want, and if you don't see lines in between, let's say if I go to my design and I turn off my grid line view, you'll see that I don't have a border between the label of a name and the box where I want to put my content control. So for me to see it easily, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my grid lines. That shows me where the divisions are. So now I can go back up to my Developer tab, and I'm going to insert a plain text. Now with content controls, there is the content control itself and then the properties it holds. So what I want to do is click on Properties, and there is a title, a tag, show it as a certain bounded box, start in tag, none. So I want to put in the title of child name, and I'm going to use a strong style. By default, it's usually paragraph font, so I'm going to go down to strong. That makes it bold. And another thing I'm going to select is lock the content control cannot be deleted. I do want the contents to be able to be deleted, but not the content control itself. I'm going to say OK. Here's what it got us. Right now we're in design mode, so if I started typing, it's going to type over this and not be a fillable entity. So I'm going to turn off design mode, and you'll see I just get something that says click here to enter text. I click, it says, oh, child's name, my child is Jane Doe, and you see I can insert data and it is strong formatted. And if I want to change the name of my child, I can. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time quickly for the parent guardian. Again, go to design mode. I find it easier to already be in there. Plain text, go to the properties, and I'm going to say parent name. Again, I'm going to use a style of strong and lock the content control. By default, we see that the default text is click here to enter text. So if I get out of design mode, you'll see click here to enter text, click here to enter text. Possibly we want something a little bit more descriptive. So how to change that is we do need to go back into design mode. Under right here where it says click to enter text, we can actually highlight it and start typing over it. Child's first and last name, perhaps. So now when we go out of design mode, it's going to say child's first and last name. So we're going to know exactly what to put into this box. I'm going to add a few more of the text box controls, and you don't really need to see that step over and over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, insert my content controls of the plain text, and come right back. Okay, I've added a few more content controls. So you see I have child's first and last name, parent guardian name, cell phone or type none, address, email address or type none, enter street address, enter city, enter state, enter home phone number, enter the credit card number, and enter the card's name on the card, and also enter any notes here. Now all of these were plain text content controls, and the only one that was different, and I do see I have a little bit of a typo here, that's okay, I can click on design mode and change that. For the notes area, I did change one of the properties. I did allow carriage returns for multiple paragraphs. Since this is a notes area, this might have larger content to put in. All the rest of them, I just used a default paragraph style and do not be able to delete the content control. Now that I have some of the information in there, I do want to test some of them out. So let's say 123 Main Street, and city is Anytown, and IL, and a phone number. I just want to see how it looks and see if things are large enough to hold all the data in there. And it looks like it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and do an undo for the typing that I did, just to leave it as a blank form, because I am going to go ahead and save it periodically. Now the next content control that I want to add is a date picker. So the date of birth is indeed a date, and we have a nice content control called a date picker content control. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the date picker. I'm going to go into design mode again so I can change some of the properties. Say date of birth, and since this is a date content control, number one, I don't want it to be deleted, and I want to select what type of formatting that it's going to show up. So I can do a very long date, but that seems a little ridiculous. I can do a short date. I can do an overseas date where the day comes first, which I actually prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 11 November 13 is going to be the style. If I wanted to change this at all, I could say YY to include the whole entire 4-digit year. I say OK. And again, since I'm here, I'm going to say enter date of birth. Now, when I'm out of design mode here's my enter date of birth. I get this down arrow, and now I can select a date. So I'm going to say, I don't know, last week, and that will be my date of birth. Now I can change this. If it wasn't 2013, it was 2000, I can easily change it. But that date picker makes it very easy, and it forces a certain style to show up on the form. So I'm going to undo so it's just the regular clear field. And I do notice with that last content control, the directions that I gave it, as in enter date of birth, wasn't really quite clear. I knew to click that arrow, but is the user going to know to click the arrow to get a calendar? So I'm going to change it. I'm going to go back to developer, go to design mode, and instead of enter date of birth, I'm going to say, let's see, click arrow, then use calendar. Maybe that will work a little bit better. I'm going to go out of design mode and see how I like it. Click arrow, then use calendar. Perfect. Now I can go back several years if I have to and click a date. I need another date field for the expiration date, so I'm going to go ahead and do a date picker, and in the properties area I'm going to say, let me see, XP date, I guess. We'll call it XP date. And this time I just want the month and the year, because that's how credit cards expire. They don't generally give the day of the month, but it does give the month and the year. I'm going to say OK, and again I want to make sure that my content control cannot be deleted, and I don't care about the style so much for this. And then I'm going to go into design mode and go ahead again and say click arrow, then use calendar. Got to give them enough information to actually select what you need here. And occasionally I don't grab the right information, I just type, and I could tell that I wasn't in the description because it was bolded letters versus this nice gray. So click arrow, then use calendar. Let's summarize what we learned in Content Controls Part 1. We used text and date fields for the users to input data, and we restricted how the users would input using specific format for our date. Microsoft Word 2013 also has content controls such as lists, pictures, checkbox, and even a combo box. So let's dive into building some of those. Credit card type. Now the credit card type is usually, let's say, one of 5 different credit card types like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. So I want to add in here a drop-down list so somebody can just select the type of card they're going to use. So in our content controls on our developer tab, I'm going to select drop-down list. And I'm going to go into the properties, and the title is going to be credit card. I'm going to go ahead and use a default paragraph font. Make sure that the content control cannot be deleted. And I'm going to start adding some values on my list. So maybe Visa, MasterCard. And for each value, I just keep adding the values. Discover, whichever cards are out there. American Express, can't forget American Express. Now that we have a list somewhat going, I can reorder them. So if I put American Express on the bottom and I want to move it up to the top, I can just move it up to the top. Maybe I want these in alphabetical order. And then Visa would move down. Again, I don't need this, or I don't need this choose an item. I could leave it there, but that's not going to be one of the choices. So I'm going to go ahead and modify this item, and instead of choose an item, perhaps I put a different credit card here. This is also a good place to put some information for the person to select one of the cards. So I will go ahead and change it to clicked to select card type, maybe. Say OK. And I have a capital L in there, so I am going to change it to try and make it look nice. Say OK. And let's go ahead and get out of design mode and kind of see it work in action. So choose an item. So click to select a card type. So maybe I want American Express. Or possibly, let me click out of it. Pardon me? Discover. So it changes every time that I select something new. Now there is a content control. I could use a text content control for zip code, but perhaps most of my customers are in the same zip code location. And that means they're kind of in the same city location, but we'll try a combo box out here. So in the Developer tab, I'm going to click on the combo box. And what a combo box allows us to do is they can either choose from a list or they can type in their own information. So again, on design mode, I want to make sure that's turned on and go to my properties. I'm going to say zip code. And I'm going to make sure that it cannot be deleted. I'm going to say choose an item, and I'm going to modify this to say type your zip code, maybe. And then I'm going to add one, and I'm just going to say and let's say by default, I'm going to move this up to the 90230 zip code as the default. Otherwise, it's going to say type your zip code. And say OK. I'm going to get out of design mode and I'm going to test it. So it says type your zip code, and I can just say, and it will accept it. In the other ones, it won't accept it by default. It's only allowing you to select something on a list, but a combo box allows you to select from a list or type in your own information. So one more thing that I want to do is, does your child need a uniform? We can add a text checkbox here to signify if a child does indeed need a uniform. So we're going to click on our checkbox content control, and right now it is not selected. So let's go ahead and click on it, and by clicking on it, it will signify yes, the child needs a uniform. If we need a little bit more information, we can put some text here that says yes. So let's go to design mode and say, does the child a uniform? And the check symbol is going to be an X, or we can change it to anything in our symbols. Maybe we want a check mark instead. I'm not too sure where that is, so I don't want to take too much time looking for a check mark. But we could select something else in there. Maybe a fancy capital theta. So here it would be yes, but I'm going to go ahead and check it back and make it an X, or go ahead and cancel. But you can change it to any symbol that you want. So if the child needs a uniform, they're going to click on it to check that it's active. I realize that I just don't like the checkbox all alone, so I am going to go ahead and inside this area, I'm going to go ahead and click on the box, and I'm going to type in yes. So to add the text next to the box, I'm going to be out of design mode. I'm going to go next to the box on the right hand side, put a couple spaces there and say yes. Just type in yes, and then that way when folks toggle it, they'll know that they're toggling a yes. The last content control that I want to enter is right up here at top. I want a picture content control. And the difference between a picture content control and just inserting a picture is the person filling out the form can insert the picture themselves. So I'm going to go again to the Developer tab. In the Controls group, click on the Picture Content Control. Gives me a nice size picture. And that's basically all I have to do. So again, on the Properties, I want to make sure that they cannot be deleted. And I'm going to say Child's Photo. And say OK. Now when I'm out of design mode, see design mode's right there, child's photo. If I'm out of design mode, when I click on this photo, it's going to say, hey, please wait while we load some pictures, and it's going to go find some pictures, and I can either do it from a file, and I have 2013, so it gives me the option of office.com, a Bing image search, and then somewhere on my SkyDrive. If I had a picture on my SkyDrive, I could browse my pictures there. So I'm not going to insert a picture, but that's how you would do it. Let's review what we did for Content Controls Part 2. Content Controls allows our users to fill out our forms easily in the manner which we want them to. We need to test the form before releasing it to the public to make sure that our content controls are behaving the way that they should. We also can use the content controls of lists, combo boxes, a picture control, as well as checkboxes. If you liked this video, here are a few other titles you might want to check out. Until then, this is Lynn Mann. Be seeing you.